The decision of the CDC is really based on recent data that just came out of some schools in Wisconsin, which showed that with really aggressive mitigation measures, we're talking about greater than 92% mask compliance, we're talking about really good contact tracing, we're talking about strict stay-at-home precautions, kids separated into cohorts, you can actually get kids back to school safely for in-person learning and reduce the rate of transmission in schools even more so than what's going on in the community. So this was a study of Wisconsin K through 12, and what they found is with all these measures, the rate of transmission in the schools was 37% lower than it was in the community, meaning that schools are actually a safer place. And of the people that did catch the coronavirus, only 3.7% of cases came in school were contracted in schools, and they were all in the kids and none in the adults. So I think all of this really does emphasize that it's possible for us to get our kids and our teachers back to school safely, even without vaccinations, even when the rate of transmission is high in the community. But the big caveat is you have to be extremely strict about those mitigation measures.
That's interesting. I did not know about that study. So is it, I'm just curious, is it more of a threat with a teacher not being vaccinated, potentially having COVID, or students unvaccinated, potentially having COVID?
So the threat is really to the teachers, because those are the ones that would potentially have more complications. Thankfully, we know that even if kids catch COVID, they're largely likely to be asymptomatic. Now, having said that, we are seeing a rise in the number of cases of MIS-C, multisystem inflammatory syndrome, in children, which is a late complication of COVID infection. So we're learning that a lot of kids don't even present with the initial infection, but then 4 weeks later develop this life-threatening complication that lands them in the ICU, and then you check their blood and realize that they had COVID before. So the risk, I think, does exist on both sides, but probably a little higher to the teacher in general, just because of their age and because of the fact that kids under 10 are thought to not transmit the virus as efficiently as adults. So kids over 10 kind of become like adults in their behaviors and how they transmit. But kids under 10, it seems, probably don't transmit as efficiently as adults.
Finally, do we know why still that kids don't transmit COVID, or it doesn't really show up as any obvious symptoms with them?
We don't know, but there are a few theories as to why kids are generally a little bit do better with COVID. So the first is maybe they don't transmit as well because they're shorter and their droplets are not expelled with as much force. And if they are expelled, they're generally likely to fall to the ground rather than get to an adult who's significantly taller than them. But the other reason is changes in the immune system. So kids are in a relatively different immune environment, because remember, their immune systems are just learning how to interact with the environment, learning how to fight all of these things. So their immune systems are probably less likely to overreact to the exposure as compared to the immune system of an adult, because part of the complications that happen with COVID are not just the infection, but it's our body's response to the infection. And then finally, the last reason is because there's some overlap between the different coronaviruses. So in adults, one theory is that if you've been exposed to a coronavirus infection before, it may change the way your body reacts to this new novel coronavirus infection now, whereas with kids, the likelihood is lower that they've been exposed to coronavirus infection before, just because they're younger and have had fewer years of potential exposure.